So right now we're gonna debunk a few myths about contouring, sculpting, and the evolution of where it should go. So right now we have eyes, guys, and I wanna go into sculpting. I wanna go into a sense of dimension and offer beautiful structure to the face. So the thing with women's faces, their faces are different than mine as a man or ours as men, is because they're all circles, they're all shapes, they're all round. Their bodies are round. Our bodies are more square and triangle. My face is more square and triangle than her face would be. So I wouldn't necessarily, even a dermatologist, when people get injectables, guys' faces need to stay more jaw and more angular, where we want to always soften the features of women's faces. So the goal, that's how contouring sort of came about. Contouring came about in the 70s. Contouring came about in the 70s. I want to say the first person to really go into it when it was like the ground zero of contouring was Grace Jones. So Grace Jones wanted to be painted like a cat, and literally. And so her makeup artist found a way to highlight her face and add a sense of dimension that made her face so angular she looked feline when she was out. And so that was kind of the start of adding dimension and shadows to the perimeter of the face. And so it kind of happened there. But now when we look at contouring, it's a $1 million business, contouring and highlighting and baking and bronzing and all this kind of things. But all it revolves around is sculpting. So I don't like to contour, I like to sculpt. Sculpting is a 2.0 of contouring. It's less aggressive, it's not as heavy, and it looks wearable. Sometimes contouring can be too much. And I feel like, talking to us as a community, sometimes we go too far and we need to pull it and dial it back.
Where do you believe contouring came from? Like, who was the first person to contour their face, or where did it originate from?
So Grace Jones, I want to say it started in disco. It started in the area of lights and club lights and on a dance floor. I think making a woman's face look a bit more angular and more feline, and also it's slimming. Contouring is slimming. It does give the face structure. It gives the face a sense of light that is not there.
Would you say the goal of contouring or sculpting is to make your features look more European?
So that's a really great question. I feel like I'm so good in contour and I'm really, really great at it. And I happened to be on a stage in Johannesburg, and a woman stood up and asked me one day, and it changed my life, I love how you contour, but why do we do it? And is it something that we're doing to make our features more Eurocentric? And I was like, whoa, I didn't think about that. I always thought about doing sculpting and contouring just for the sake of the way the lights hit our face and adding structure to the face, and it's really to create a great photo on the red carpet. But if you really dissect it, slimming down the nose or slimming down the cheeks to take a sense of volume away from it actually can have a negative effect. So I possibly am only one talking about this, but contouring actually can aid in something that can be problematic, which can be taking away features that we love, and I want to own my nose, I want to own my nostrils, or the width of my nose, or the bridge of it all. So that's what made me realize that I only want to offer structure, but I don't want to change any sensibility that already is there. So when you're doing makeup, try to keep the woman within the cultural nuances of where she is. If she's an African-American woman, don't slim the nose down too much. Try to, own it and wrap your artistry around it instead of changing it. There was something that I was doing and I wasn't even conscious of.
I gotta ask, so for darker skin, when contouring like a really, really dark skinned girl, how would you say you contour darker skin? Because that skin already is almost like yeah.
So for me, there's always gonna be a deeper point, So even if I was contouring a lek wek, there's gonna be a deeper color. As an artist, I can create a bluer base. So when we look at colors, as we look at foundations, sometimes I'm in the lab, working with companies like L'Oreal Paris or whoever, and we're creating foundations, we're creating colors. And the deeper you go, you don't go more black, you go a hair more blue. So whenever you're going with someone who has really, really deep skin, whether they be from Senegal or the Ivory Coast, just try to go to a bluer undertone. And you can mix those, you can make it yourself, but just understand it's not a black that you're trying to create, you're trying to create depth of complexion. So if you notice, guys, I'm using a big fluffy brush. So everyone is possibly doing this the total opposite. Everyone's gonna do this and tell me that I'm not doing the right way. But I like to use a fluffy brush because if there was a fire, if something happened right now and she had to run outside, she doesn't have a million stripes on her face. I just feel like it's not modern, guys, and there should be a way for us to evolve when it comes to sculpting. So if you notice, the back of my hand has all the product I need, and I'm buffing everything from here, and I'm creating a beautiful sense of shadow on the sides of the face. If you notice, I'm bringing this into the hairline. And this is called, we like to call burning the hairline. And so what that does is it looks really great. It almost blends our contour into her ponytail. And this is great for stage. This is great for anyone. Anyone who's wearing a pony, it's great to bring your bronzers or your sculpt sensibility into the temples of the forehead. And so chin up. And always, never neglect the jawline. So the jaw, it looks really great in photos. I'm a huge advocate of always making sure there's structure here. Even though women don't pay as much attention to the jaw as they could or should, I feel like this is a really a nice area that we can pay more attention to. So if you notice, I have very minimal amount of product on my brush. So when I say minimal, I'm always working up. There's no more than that. I couldn't stripe it on. And so when you do that, it doesn't look as cheap or crazy. It doesn't look as inundated. You guys don't, this is not the circus. I want you guys to have a makeup look that looks elevated, okay? And the way to elevate it is to take any excess off the back of your hand first. Any questions so far? And so I'm going to set this with a powder as well. So I want to show you a tip. So if she had a really large forehead, just say, it's okay. Foreheads are beautiful. I love a large forehead. It's a thing. But if she had one and she wanted to minimize, I would go in a bit more here. But some people have a very short forehead, or some people are wearing a lace front, a wig, and you want to maximize this space. So I would contour on them on the sides, but leave this open. Leave them open here, if you can, if they need the height. Turn away from me.
What is one of the biggest mistakes makeup artists make when it comes to contouring?
One of the biggest mistakes I would say is too much product on the brush. So, or the cardinal sin for me is watching Instagram and everyone slathering product on everywhere. Too much concealer, too much stripes. This is not the Daytona 500, guys. This is a makeup application. It should be delicate. I want to give you a reference point. I want you to think about something. So if your client, because we're going to go back to clients here, right? If your client has on, she's going to a really important thing, or it's her wedding. It's a premium day for her. There's a really expensive dress. There's a $2,000 or $3,000 dress. Everyone's waiting to do their hair. There's, her publicist is waiting outside. It's a big day. By doing more makeup, too much makeup, everything can cheapen. So this right here has the ability to make everything less expensive, look less premium. So what I'm saying is pulling back, the art of doing less or pulling back in terms of the product application, less lash, less skin, less contour, has the ability to elevate her, to make everything just look a bit more intentional, if that makes any sense. That's why makeup is so important. Because, even we don't always get the credit as makeup artists, but it's really important because it is the face, it is the center of it all, and that's why the reason I'm here with you guys now is because I want you guys to look at yourselves as brands, just like Nike looks at themselves as a brand or any other designer. Everything else on the woman is a brand, from the shoes to the handbag, everything. So you have to regard this as a brand as well. Why would you not? And so if you notice, I'm doing a little bit to the nose, turn this way and straight on, but I'm not going in. I'm not doing too much. I'm just giving enough so when she turns to the sides, there's enough structure, because at times our foundations can take all of that structure away. So I'm adding a bit more dimension, and I'm going to set it with a powder, and then I'm going to leave that nose alone. But I love her nose as it is, so I don't want to do too much.
Are you using the same product?
Mm-hmm. Same product. So after I set this with a powder, I'll be done, basically.
Fall in love with me. Fall in love with me.
I'm using a blush brush, right? So I'm using just a basic blush brush, has no product on it at all. And what I'm going to do is, so this is a little tricky part. This is what I like to do. I like to go cool first, and then I'm going to go deep. So going with something really gray. I don't know if you guys remember this. I'm a little older than you, but you remember Bob Ross, Happy Trees? Okay, all right. He was a painter back in the 80s. So guys, I'm doing this and I'm going directly, anything that I did with the liquid, I'm setting it with my cream. Or anything I did with the cream, I'm setting it with my powder, should I say. And turn away from me. Away, away, perfect. And I'll give you a tip. If you ever make a mistake and you feel like, oh man, I brought my contour down too far, or it's starting to look heavy, don't be afraid to take a wet beauty blender or a wet sponge and lift the cheek again. So, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And chin up. Look at me. Perfect. So my final touch on the contour would to be taking a deep powder. I'm taking a really deep powder. This is like an NW58 Studio Fix. I love this color just to have as one of the most universal colors around. It just works. And it's a really deep color, but it works on so many people. And I love to use it on a shadow, as a shadow for people who can't wear it. So I'm gonna go in the temples and just really hit those areas one more time, just to offer a bit more dimension. But I don't need to have a heavy hand. I have a very light application, a very light touch. Turn this way. And mind you, everything I'm doing, if you look at the layers, again, this goes back to my earlier point of dimension and duality. So this face is gonna be on all day. She's gonna wake up with this face on Monday morning.
So after you're completely finished, do you set her with any type of spray or just it's done, go?
I don't believe, well, if I would do a spray for concert or something like that, but I've done enough groundwork to make sure that this is so anchored and she's in a really good place. I'm fully confident in leaving her to her own devices and not worrying at this point. We all have those clients we worry about, but I'm not worried. I think she'll be fine. So guys, I think I'm almost there. I want to finish with a little bit of blush. Okay, so guys, just for this is a little extra credit here. I'm taking a hair of blush. I'm using a deep cream blush. And I'm just basically warming up, turn this way, turn away. Warming up the cheeks.
And this is a cream base, correct?
Mm-hmm. I'm just using a beautiful, I love cream blush. It looks really good on everyone. It looks healthy. And I'm tapping this into the temples as well. And this is that thing I was telling you about, adding a little bit of a flush to the temples and the sides of the face. And turn away from me. Bam. All right. Okay, guys, so here you have it. We have done contouring, we've done eyes, we did a little disco in the daytime on the lid. I even showed you guys how to do heat in the crease, because it makes the skin look really healthy and charming, right? So I feel like she's in a really good place, but she still looks like herself. That's the goal.